Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a couple of games over the weekend here. We've got one on Saturday and one on Sunday that we are going to be bringing you in this video. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. We're going to be talking about our best bets for these games in this one. But we also have a player props only video for you guys, so you can check both those out. Also, head to thelines.com. You can check out all the great written content as we throw the picks up there. I'm going to be continuing to try to bring articles to you guys as often as possible, Nate as well. And we also have our odds finder tool on there. You can use that to make sure that you're getting the best juice back on all of these bets as you shop these lines from all the sports books that we have available to us right now in the U.S. as we continue to try to legalize that. But moving on to how we did the other day, I just wanted to mention that we had a great night talking about that what are we talking about? The Celtics and the Hawks game there. We made 8 total picks, or really 9 total picks between the games and some best bets and player props. Went 8-1 on those, calling Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Trae Young, Atlanta to be able to cover and get over. I like the over as it was, blah, blah, blah. We did pretty well. Tatum got his 30, and that helped us in some of those player performance doubles. So felt pretty good about that night. Hopefully you guys were tailing along. And now we're going to move on, like I said, to our first best bet pick here. Nate, let's just want to mention the games we're talking about, obviously Heat and Knicks as they start their second round, and then also the other second round game is that the Phoenix Suns and the Nuggets. So that's what we're choosing between here.
Yeah, victory for the teaser. The Hawks with the +8 cover. Finally, that comes through vindicated. But I'm not teasing this one. I, in fact, am looking at an alternate line for the over Game 1 Heat Knicks. I know it's a Sunday 1 p.m. game, and I did poo-poo the Cavs and Knicks scoring a lot early there, but look, I'm not fading Jimmy Butler and the Heat offense. This is not the Cavs. So the total opens at 206. I've seen it bet up a little bit some places, but I'm willing to bet it to 212 at like +160. I mean, maybe half a unit on that and half on the actual total, or a full unit on the actual total, because I do feel like this is going over. These are, the Heat and the Knicks have a reputation of being really slow and really physical and defensively oriented. It's just, they were kind of average, at least Miami was down the stretch. We saw what they did to turn up against Milwaukee, but that was more just spikes on offense. Mostly I'm just looking at two guys who are not going to be stopped in Jimmy Butler and Jalen Brunson on opposite ends of the court. And when these teams met in early March, twice the games totaled 247 and 242 at both places, Miami and New York. Brunson averaged 25 a game on 63% shooting. Jimmy averaged 34 on 54% shooting. And then you'd say, well, then the third time they met, it was really low scoring and ugly. Both guys only had 12 points, but that's kind of the mixed bag we got from the Heat all year. Julius Randle also sprained his ankle 15 minutes into that game. So I'm looking for more of the back and forth that we saw there. Like, the Knicks found their rhythm in this Cleveland series against what was a top defense. I would argue a better defense than Miami in the regular season. And 115 offensive rating in their last 3, despite, not being able to hit wide open threes, which is, it's still something to be concerned about. But I think we will see some positive regression. They're not going to shoot 30% all series here against the Heat. In fact, their last 3 against the Heat in the regular season, they shot 41%. They hit over 15 threes per game. And Miami is shorthanded defensively. Surprisingly, it's just like Kyle Lowry being the guy who's going to limit the opposing point guard. I am obviously off that at this point in his career. You're going to have Kevin Love out there. Like, how's he going to handle Julius Randle, who is, ruled in at this point? And Jimmy, I think we've learned not to doubt him right now. He is on one. I don't expect him to take a game off after they get 3 days off before this game 1.
Fully in agreement there. I've no problem with you going a little bit more into the alternate total as well. +158, as you said there, for it to get to 213. I think that's a pretty fair bet. I'm with everything you said. And to be honest, I'm really just going to slide off of that and continue it with my first pick, which is Miami, to get their team total at 101.5 points. I understand how much they put into winning that series at the end, specifically Jimmy Butler, but really, like, Jimmy knows how to use his energy. He knows that he's going to be needed. And you saw that when he got his rest, or when he just sort of took a few plays off here and there in that Bucks series. Like the defensive rating for Jimmy Butler individually, obviously he did a good job when called upon, but really they stopped calling upon him and they were putting him on whomever the worst player was on the floor offensively speaking for the Bucks, so that he could have that energy on offense. And I think that's going to continue to be the case in this series. I think even the thing is, like, the Heat are going to be able to impose their will in terms of how this game is played. And I think they want to push the tempo a little bit, because nobody wants to play against that half court defense against the Knicks, knowing full well that you're not getting an offensive rebound for a second chance points. Like, it's not coming easy on that end of the floor for anybody at this point when you're playing New York, especially the way they're playing. So they continue to be okay playing Mitchell Robinson minutes, do the Knicks, which is obviously good for preferably an under, and maybe you think that limits this team a little bit, but that's not really even where Miami was scoring from against the Bucks. Like, there's actually a pretty good the Bucks are a pretty good example of how this series probably can go. And if you replace the Knicks with them in terms of, there's a lot of big guys on the Bucks that are going to be able to handle the shorter front court of the Heat, because Bam stands at a maybe 6'10", probably 6'9" center that, you know, he's not getting anything down low when he plays against tall guys like Brolo, or in this case now Mitchell Robinson. And that's what we've seen when Bam does play against Mitchell Robinson. He does get a lot fewer points. He's still at about 8 boards, but the points are lower, not necessarily even because he's not, you know, a focal point of the offense. It's more that he's just playing a high post rather than actually trying to get boards, and there's nothing easy coming for him on second chance points. So they're relying on a lot more shooting and a lot more spacing, and that is a good way to play against the Knicks. As you said, the Cavs, they did that a lot. Honestly, they did space the floor, but like the Knicks were forcing the ball into the hands of Chetty Osman, you know, Ike Okoro, like, shout him out. He actually hit a couple corner threes here and there, but like didn't even get the time in the first bunch of games. They probably could have used Kevin Love as a nice stretch big in that game, because Evan Mobley had plenty of opportunities to shoot threes if he wanted to. He just didn't want to, and that's why the Knicks left him open out there. But that's not going to be the case when you have Kevin Love out there, and I think he is going to be getting big minutes at this point for them. Played 30 in that closeout game, obviously including overtime. They even got some Cody Zeller minutes in there because of the fact they needed to go big, and they're going to have to do the same thing, because Mitchell Robinson's not coming off the floor even if you go smaller. The Knicks do have the personnel with the versatility of Randall and RJ Barrett being a nice size for, you know, and rebounding small forward-ish shooting guard, if you will. Obviously, Josh Hart's going to be out there for 40 minutes. So it's a really, really good rebounding team that they're going to need to get shooters out there. And I'll just say, like, their bench was incredible. That's, you know, my last point for this is the Heat bench and the others have come to play. And that's a huge reason for it. Obviously, nothing happens for this Heat squad without Jimmy Butler. But the fact of the matter is, if you can throw Jimmy Butler out there with Strus or Vincent or, you know, Caleb Martin and the like right now, like, all those guys I just said are hitting at least 43% from three. Duncan Robinson pulled it together, is now hitting 71% from deep on 4 attempts. So, like, you know, they've got guys that are going to continue to shoot the ball. And the Knicks had, I mentioned it in a ton of game videos about the Knicks and Cavs in that series. The Cavs had open shots because the Knicks are going to allow the certain guys to shoot, but there's no real weak holes on this offense for Miami at this point in terms of shooters.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Duncan Robinson, because I was thinking, like, wait, how did their defense get worse when Tyler Hero went out? It's like, oh, because Duncan Robinson is playing now. He's just literal food when he's out there, but he is a sniper on the other end. And yeah, all those guys are playing off Jimmy really well and stepping up, and hashtag Heat culture and all that bullshit. But let's move on to a game that's probably going to be more fun to watch. No offense, Knicks fans. The Suns and Nuggets, though, this series is going to be fire.
Oh, yeah.
Game 1 on Saturday night. And I'm going with a parlay that I actually feel really good about. I mean, certainly compared to the odds that you're getting here. KD and Book to get 25 plus, which happened every game of that last series. Joker to get 10 rebounds, which almost always happens. And then the one thing you're risking on here is Jamal Murray to get 25 plus when he's, you know, minus 120 to get 23. So we're talking about a couple more than what the books project him for. And it's playoff Jamal right now. I mean, at home in those first 3 games against Mini, 33 points per game on 51, 52, 94 splits, a 32% usage rate. I mean, Book is playing great D. That's true, but he's got a lot on his plate offensively. I think CP3 is going to be guarding Murray at times, and that's kind of a problem given how explosive Murray has looked recently. Joker, of course, gobbles up rebounds. At home in the playoffs, he averages 12.5 per game. In this last round against Minnesota, he averaged 12.5 per game. He has double-digit boards, 12 of his last 15 at home in the playoffs. I mean, Book, we know, is just going off, 40 points per game the last 4 in that series. So actually, if you want to go book 30 plus, you're at plus 600 for this parlay. And his prop is 30 points. It's 30 and a half. Like, I don't know if I missed something when I was clicking on all these, or maybe I'm just extra confident because the Hawks Celtics parlay hit and all the points happened there. But I mean, KD getting 25 against Aaron Gordon, not a KD stopper necessarily. His last 3, KD's averaging 40 against Aaron Gordon. And the recent meetings here between these teams, which you're going to talk about, have been pretty over heavy. There was like that. And Jamal has gotten his. He played 43 minutes with Mikal Bridges guarding him most of the last 2 competitive ones and got 26 points. Joker had 22 rebounds. He had a 41-point triple-double against those iterations of the Suns. So I definitely see these things being likely to a degree, and the odds you're getting when you parlay them are crazy.
I love it, man. I'm so happy to see you doing this kind of stuff. It is like it's all these things are so likely. Obviously, you get those increased odds with needing 4 things to happen at once. But like really, like you said, to me, it's on the Jamal thing. I like Joker points in this one, which I'll talk about in the props video as well. I think that's been what he's shown he's going to start doing more over the last 3 games against Minnesota. He turned on the point, really 4 games. He turned on the points there a bit, and I think that's going to continue to be the case. But I have no problem with that from Jamal as well. I know he gets sort of turned up a bit whenever he's playing against some pretty good guards. That's going to be the case against Devin Booker. Right? He's definitely going to want to bring it there. So I'm with all of this because I'm also, talking about my last pick here, going with points in this game at over 226.5. I think this will probably get to like 230 by game 2, to be honest. We'll see something at like 230.5. Go ahead and book that roughly 12 and a half minutes into this video that I'm calling that, so we can remember it for later when we look at the game 2 line, and it is 230 and a half exactly. That I should win something for that. But moving forward, these two haven't really played yet in this specific matchup, KD and Joker, the 2 best offensive players. I guess I got to talk about Book more, but I'm just talking about them for a second. Like when these two play against each other, there's been a lot of points, just as a quick for what it's worth, if you will, because of the fact that they both just, once they get onto an offense, it's instantly better, probably by like 6 or 7 points per 100. So the offensive ratings for both these teams has been incredible in these playoffs, and I think they both know to a degree like they need to be that effective on offense because of their deficiencies on defense in certain places. But both at about 122 offensive rating, the Phoenix at 124.5, both playing pretty slowly, right? They're both playing at about Phoenix played at a 98 pace, in part due to the fact that they were playing a smaller Clippers team a lot that was just going to run, even when Zubac was on the floor. And then Denver played a little bit slower. They were playing a team with 2 centers on the floor that were lumbering around, so that's not exactly a surprise. But they played at a decent pace at home over the season, knowing that they've got the best passer probably in the league. So both these teams really, honestly, really more Phoenix shoot a lot from the mid range. Denver's not good at that, but Phoenix also hasn't really been good against the 3-pointers or really in the paint, which is not super surprising. They didn't do a good job playing defense against that Clippers team, as we saw a lot of those totals go over a lot. And I think Joker's going to have his way at this point, which I'll talk about in player props. Like I said, he loves playing against DeAndre Ayton, and there's not much defense down low or even to stop Joker when he's 15 feet from the basket. Once the Suns traded all of their depth at that area, on that area of the floor with their wings, in order to get KD. So I think just at the end of the day, like Book and KD aren't playing defense as well as they could, even KD, because he has a much bigger role playing offense than even he did at times, definitely on Golden State and even at times on the Nets. So I think that the fact that they're both at about 116.5 individual defensive ratings tells you where their focus is, and it's making sure that they get the ball in the net on the other side of the floor because of their lack of defense at this point.
Yeah, game 1s will tend to be a little higher scoring than the rest of the series. That's why we are on over for both of these a little bit here. But I mean, the Nuggets, so good at home. I mentioned that stat, I think, in game 5 before Mini, that they're 33-2 when they score at least 109 at home. So that really makes me like Nuggets in the series, which I just checked is plus 110 with home court advantage.
Yeah.
I mean, Phoenix just struggled to beat the Clipper, like the Russell Westbrook Revival Club, like in extremely high scoring games. And if you're going to get into a shootout with Joker, I mean, the offensive rating is going to be through the roof. Denver has so much more depth than Phoenix. Like, it's not even funny how much better their bench is. I mean, Book and KD, can they really play 43, 45 minutes every other night and keep pace with this team? I don't think so. I think Nuggets win the series in 6, but plus 110 for them to win it at all when they have home court. That's my bonus pick of the day here.
I like it. It sounds like you're telling me that I should parlay this, and it's not much of a line at 2.5 for the Nuggets to win, because I agree. And if you know, Mo was talking about this actually on the Discord, where he got it at 120 right away and was like, yeah, let me get that for the Nugs at home, like you said, for more games in this series. So minus 2.5 and the over in this game at 226 plus 256. Why even bother with the money line, which is minus 140 and still gets you good juice? But like, I'll take the 3 points just for the extra little like quarter of a unit on that to happen. So I'm feeling good about that with you as well. I think we've got some pretty good stuff in the player props, as that is all the time we have for you in this one. So make sure to check that out as well. And until we see you next, happy betting.